And now the draft has been going at Mach 12 right down the highway. We are at the point where it starts to make a left-hand turn. Chicago is on the clock. This is the Curtis Enis spot, but he is coveted by St. Louis, by Jacksonville, by maybe New England, by lots of teams. Do the Bears make a trade, or do they keep the pick? I have to do it. The Chicago Bears. There's about 7 minutes left for them on the clock, and their phones are buzzing. Let's head down to news on the Bears. Let's go to Miami with Chris Mortensen. Mort, what's brewing?
Well, Boomer, you're right. Their phones are ringing off the hook. They are talking with Jacksonville, St. Louis, and New England, and here's the deal. They want 2 ones. They want both of Jacksonville's ones, which Jacksonville hasn't been willing to give up. They wanted both of New England's ones. If they don't get the deal they want, Mark Catley, the personnel man, now making the picks for the Bears, will take Curtis Enis, the Penn State running back. He really likes Curtis Enis. If he trades down, then they're looking at a linebacker like Takeo Spikes of Auburn or Keith Brooking of Georgia Tech.
Well, moments ago, Chris, I spoke with John Shaw of the Rams, and at that point, the Rams are calling the bluff of the Bears. Of course, the Rams want Curtis Enis, someone Dick Vermeil has talked with personally, and it's a need for the Rams, but they're not willing to trade with Chicago. And if Chicago goes ahead and picks Curtis Enis, then the Rams will go with Grant Wistrom, the defensive lineman, also one of the areas of need for the St. Louis Rams. So at this point, the Rams aren't willing to move. They're going to wait and see what Chicago does. They have Enis and Wistrom rated about the same, with Enis being the priority simply because that's more of a need position.
With the 5th pick in the draft, Chicago Bears select running back, Penn State University, Curtis Enis.
I tell you what, I would not, and this is on no inside information for this particular, I would not necessarily rule out a trade in which Enis doesn't end the weekend a Bear, although lately those things haven't happened.
No, I agree with you, Chris. It's not that the Bears can't use a player like Curtis Enis. He's certainly a terrific football player, a terrific young man, and the Bears want to add that type of a quality player to their roster. But I think that there are other areas of needs on the Chicago Bear football team that could have been addressed in this draft, and I think will be. I tend to agree with you, Chris. I really feel like Curtis Enis may not wind up past Sunday being a Chicago Bear. At least they have him in fold now. I think it's not necessarily the move you want to see. They didn't get the deal they want, but this gives them time now to be able to work on a future deal that may even get them more players, more picks, and of course more opportunity to help their football team.
Although worse things could happen, Mel, than just lining up Curtis Enis and letting him be a big bruising back in a cold weather ballpark.
Well, you're right, Chris. I think when you look at Kajana Carter and Blair Thomas, everybody says, are you afraid of Penn State backs? Well, Lydell Mitchell, Franco Harris, Kurt Warner had great careers coming out of Happy Valley. I look at that size, 240 pounds. You also see some outside speed, not a lot of creativity or elusive qualities, but we're talking about a 240-plus pounder who has the speed to take it the distance. Look at the inside power. Great tackles between the tackles. You're talking about a guy that certainly can keep the chains moving very effectively. He is a tackle breaker. There's no question about that. And he plays 4 quarters. In the 4th quarter, he'll wear down defenses. Watch him here. Number 39, coming down the field, making the catch. A lot of receptions during his career at Penn State. So he's multi-dimensional. He's 240 pounds. And what I like about him is he's going to create yards, not through creativity or elusiveness, but through sheer power and determination. He'll take 1 tackle, 2, 3. It's going to take a gang tackling situation to bring this kid down. Like I said before, when you get into the latter stages of the 4th quarter, and it's a close game, and you can ride a Curtis Enis for a drive, you get into field goal range, what have you. This is the kind of kid that can become very valuable, taking pressure off of Eric Kramer.
Well, 6 yards a carry last year, 19 touchdowns. And, you know, one thing you should remember about Curtis Enis, he was originally drafted, recruited by Joe Paterno as a linebacker. So there may be some question about Penn State running backs. No question about Penn State linebackers.
Maybe this was a terrific move by Hatley. Maybe this was a move to say, okay, now I'm holding the aces. Well, now what are you going to do?
That's what I said.
You're exactly right. Now come to me with it. See, I think...
There's no clock on this trade.
That's right.
Well, Sal, some people surprised by Curtis Enis going to the Bears right now, but Mark Catley, the personnel boss, and Dave Wanstead, the Bears coach, have talked out the scenario. And the next step then is to remove the transition tag from Raymond Harris, who's coming off the leg injury. That frees up another $2.5 million that they may use to target free agents after June 1st. So there is a plan in effect to take that tag off Raymond Harris.
just like Mel said, Boomer, not only St. Louis, but New England was definitely interested in Curtis Enis. Of course, losing Curtis Martin to free agency to the Jets, they have a hole, they have a need to fill there. But when they were on the phone with the Bears while the Bears were on the clock, the Bears were asking for both first-round picks this year, 18 and 22 from New England, as well as a first-round pick for next year. And team owner Bob Kraft said that's just too much to mortgage for one guy, so it's back to the drawing board for the Patriots as they go hunting for another running back.
Let's go out to Chicago and join the head coach of the Chicago Bears, Dave Wanstead. And David, I guess thanks for joining us, and good day to you. I guess the phones are ringing off the hook, but in the end, Enis was just too good to pass up, or were there deals that you're still scratching your head over that the Bears decided not to make?
No, this was something that Mark Hatley, Bill Reese, Mike McCaskey, we talked about for the last couple of weeks as far as, what the value that we thought Curtis Enis would come under in this draft. And we were very determined that he could help our football team, and we were not going to just give up Curtis Enis and drop down just for the sake of doing it. So we're really excited about having Curtis. And I think there's no question that he'll have an impact on our football team and help us win games this year.
Dave, one of the positions which you have now, some extra players, or good players, are at running back. I'm not asking you to predict the trade yet, but could the Bears make some moves, keep Enis, and then move? I mean, you got Edgar Bennett. That's one of the areas where you're stocked. I imagine some will not be Bears next year.
Yeah, we are, and that's something that we've thought through. If this situation did happen like it did today, and what we'll have to do is we got minicamp coming up next week, and we'll deal with all the players and at that time.
You've got your hands full with every team except the Bears making the playoffs. Good luck on your move up the ladder, and get back to that war room. Thanks for joining us, Dave.
Okay, Chris, good talking to you.
The number 2 pick, Tony Parrish, is a kid that they had rated very highly and were delighted to get in the second round.
You obviously needed help in the secondary, and this kid could maybe start for you this year.
Well, we hope so, and that's why we drafted him, obviously. But, with the departure of Mark Carrier 2 years ago, and it didn't work out with Anthony Marshall, Johnny Mangum did a good job last year of filling in, but it was a need, as you say, and we're real happy to have Tony. I mean, he's been a real productive player there. Mark can talk a little bit more about his abilities and stuff.
Of course, Olin Kreutz comes up in the third round.
We lost Jerry Fontenot to free agency. Chris played center last year for the first time ever. Chris could play center tomorrow if he had to. We signed Casey Wegman as the season went on, but we really wanted to try to get Chris back at guard if we possibly could. And Olin was the highest rated center that our scouts had on the board. And again, just to be very honest with you, we never thought he'd be there in the third round. And so we felt real fortunate to get him. And he's all jacked up and coming in. And so he'll fit a need for us. Plus, we're getting a real quality player. And it gives us a chance to really solidify that offensive line, which we haven't done a very good job of the last few years.
Now, this was a big surprise. Projected a first-round pick, Alonzo Mays. He, I guess, experimented with marijuana before the combine, and so he fell down to the fourth. And Mark, I guess, having been satisfied that the character problem is not an issue, this is a terrific football player.
We had him rated as the #1 tight end, and he just does some excellent things catching the ball. And we just felt like we couldn't pass on him at the time. He was heading above all the other players that were on the board.
We start in the 6th round with, ironically, Chris draft. Dave, what do you know about him, the linebacker from Stanford?
This guy's a linebacker that can run. He's smart. He's played inside. He's played outside. He's been a real good special teams player. So, he's got a real good chance, obviously with the linebacker situation as it is, to come in and make our football team.
Mark, Pat Mannelly, offensive tackle, but a deep snapper, really the reason you went out and got him, huh?
Yeah, Pat's was the best snapper in the draft, and we had stayed in contact with him for the part of the draft, and 4 or 5 teams had called him, and so we took him in the 6th, and we feel like he'll be a snapper for the next 10 years, we hope.